Today is week 2 of Pantheon, so here's your updated guide on how to both beat the new encounter and get platinum. Rather than regurgitate my entire week 1 guide, I'll link that down in the pinned comment, meaning if you didn't do week 1 of Pantheon and you want to know how to beat the first 4 encounters, aka Golgoroth, the Caretaker, the Planet Room, and Atrax, link to that guide will be down in the pinned comment as nothing should be changing there. I will give some quick loadout tips regarding the first 4 encounters though. Week 2 Pantheon, ORYX EXALTED, features a Stasis Surge, a Solar Surge, and a new modifier I'll go over shortly. For Golgoroth on week 2, my team changed over to Solar LFRs for damage. For Caretaker and Planet Room, we changed to Solar Rocket Launchers, aka Crafted Apex Predator and Gallarhorn paired together. Yes, you can still 2-floor the Caretaker, by the way. Check last week's guide for that info. For Atrax, Parasite is already usually the play, and the Solar Surge makes that even better, so GG. The new modifier is Shot Caller, landing multiple precision hits with a primary weapon empowers special and heavy ammo weapons. Here's my info dump from Court. Please follow him. I believe it only takes 3 primary shots to activate, and you get a plus 20% special and heavy damage buff for 15 seconds, which is really good. Really try to remember to activate that at the beginning of any damage phase this week. More on that later in the ORYX section. This week is the ORYX encounter, where your goal is, what else? To kill ORYX. Here's a bird's eye view of the room. Graphic design is my passion. You got a big room with 4 large elevated plates, which my team usually refers to as L1R1 and L2R2, but you can call them whatever you want. Most teams split up roles into 4 plate guardians and 2 roaming guardians, one running around between L2 and R2 and the other running around between L1 and R1. If you're relatively new to raiding or have not done the ORYX encounter before, do not make the assumption that the 2 roaming guardians are just ad clear roles and give them to teammates who are maybe gonna half pay attention. The roaming guardians 100% have to know the mechanics too, as they may have to tag in for one of the plate guardians later. More on that in a little bit. Okay, the fight begins. ORYX spawns at the back of the room and you kill trash for a little bit, then ORYX will randomly make his way either left or right and stop moving near one of the 4 plates. 2 things will then happen. 1, ORYX will slam his hand down on that plate, and when he lifts his hand up, the plate will glow green. 2, a random member of the fire team will be chosen to become torn between worlds, aka they'll be kinda invisible and shadowy. Whichever player becomes torn, they need to make their way to the green plate that ORYX hit with his hand. Both the guardian assigned to that plate and the torn guardian need to jump up on top of that plate. They should both be looking up and around the map. They are looking for this, a glowing white orb just kind of hanging out in the sky. That orb will be hanging out above one of the other plates in the room. Whichever plate it's hovering over, tell the guardian assigned to that plate, as they also need to jump up on top of their plate. With players now standing on top of both plates, platforms should appear in the air between the 2 plates. The torn guardian can now leapfrog their way up the plates and touch the white orb glowing in the sky. The plate guardians need to stay on top of their plates during the leapfrogging, by the way. If they get off their plates too early, the platforms in the air will vanish and the torn guardian will fall. Remember earlier when I mentioned that the roaming guardians can't just mentally tap out and be all, oh, I'll just be on ad clear. That is because they could end up being the one randomly chosen to be the torn guardian. Also, in the event that ORYX punches a plate and the guardian assigned to that plate is also the one that randomly becomes torn, one of the roaming guardians needs to come over and jump up on that plate in order to summon the floating platforms for that torn player to jump up to. TLDR, everyone needs to know what to do and be ready to tag in depending on who becomes torn. While the torn guardian is leaping through the air to grab the glowing orb, 2 other things will be happening at the ground level that you need to know about. 1, ogres will spawn up out of the ground. Going back to our diagram, their exact spawn locations are right here. There will be 4 in total, but they spring up 1 at a time, not all at once. The plate guardians should immediately turn their attention to these ogres when they come up out of the ground. Reason being, when they die, they drop taken blights, and these are vital to your team for a reason I'll explain shortly. For now, just know you gotta protect them. And from what exactly? That would be thing number 2, Light Eater Knights that spawn up right here on the map and take the following beeline path to the taken blights that have been left behind by the dead dead ogres. If you allow a knight to reach a taken blight, they'll literally remove it from the map, and again, you do not want that to happen. So each plate guardian needs to both kill their ogre and then kill their corresponding knight, which again kind of spawns opposite corner of where the ogres have come up out of the ground. New Pantheon mechanic number 1, by the way. Unlike normal ORYX where everyone kills one Light Eater Knight, week 2 Pantheon features never-ending Light Eater Knights. So keep your head on a swivel and make sure you keep killing them until damage phase begins. So the thing where a guardian becomes torn and has to jump up on a plate and leapfrog their way to a glowing orb, that whole process will happen 3 times total. The 3rd time, the torn runner will be given the option to physically pick up a buff from the glowing orb. Make sure they do that before dropping down to the ground level. When they drop down for the 3rd time, you should be looking for this, a weird looking knight with a big aura. The torn runner should run right up to that knight with their power, then dunk on the knight when they see the text that says steal brand. They are essentially stealing the knight's immortality zone aura. When you've done that, just go ahead and kill the knight. Meanwhile, the 4 plate guardian should now be relocating to be near, not inside of or touching, but near their taken blights that were left behind by the dead ogres. When you see text on your HUD that says ORYX calls upon the darkness, then each plate guardian should step into their taken blight. Stand in the taken blight for a few seconds until you see in the HUD that you have successfully detonated your corrupted light bomb, and when you see that text, immediately run to the middle of the map where your teammate with the immortality zone from earlier should be waiting. And now it is damage time. And the reason those taken blights are so important is that the number of taken blight bombs you detonate determines the length of your damage window on ORYX. Meaning, if you only detonate 1 taken blight, you're gonna have a really short damage phase, so make sure to defend all 4 taken blights from those annoying knights who want to eat them, and try to detonate all 4. New Pantheon mechanic number 2, during damage phase, a Tormentor will spawn. Honestly, I would say to completely ignore him until damage phase is over and then put him in the ground. Not too complicated there. We'll talk about recommended loadouts and stuff for damage near the end of the video. For now, why don't we keep talking about mechanics? Damage ORYX as much as you can by shooting him in the hole in the chest. After the damage phase, ORYX will do one of 2 things at random. One option is he'll bombard your team with taken explosions. That would be the ideal situation IMO. All you gotta do there is just run around non-stop to avoid the explosions, and you can end them early if you kill all 4 knights standing atop every plate. The second option is he'll create a pocket shadow realm and teleport players in one at a time, where you'll have to fight a small mobile version of ORYX. If that happens, just try to eliminate mini ORYX as efficiently as you can without dying. New Pantheon mechanic number 3, if you get teleported into the Thunderdome, there will now be 2 mini ORYXs attacking you instead of just 1. Again, not really a big deal. After that, it is rinse and repeat until you reach the final portion of ORYX's health bar, aka final stand. ORYX will retreat to the back of the room, and 2 final ogres will spawn in on both the left and right of the area. Kill them, and they will each drop a taken blight. ORYX will now start charging a final attack, which will wipe the entire team if he finishes charging the attack. You need to kill him, again, by shooting his chest hole before he finishes charging his kill everything attack. The 2 taken blights are there for you to stun ORYX 2 more times during final stand if need be. By stepping into one and detonating it like before, you stun ORYX out of finishing his attack. It should sort of go like this. Group up together and DPS ORYX with 1 player off to the side ready to detonate the blight. Step in, detonate the blight, ORYX will get stunned, DPS ORYX some more, and if he's still alive, have another player detonate the second blight if you need to stun him again, and keep shooting him until he is dead. Alrighty, loadout talk. Because it's a solar surge, I think you have 2 go-to options. If you want, you can go Gallarhorn and Apex Predator combo. Just make sure nobody is strafing during damage phase so you don't get blown to hell. Or you can do what we did. Whisper of the Worm takes advantage of the surge buff because solar and no need to reload. Again, reminder that before any DPS on ORYX, be sure to hit him in the chest with 3 crit primary shots to take advantage of a free extra 20% damage via the shot caller modifier. Literally free real estate. If you don't have Whisper or a solar solar rocket launcher, you could also roll with a solar linear like Cataclysmic if you have one, or Sleeper Simulant if you have absolutely nothing else to use. Remember to get some kind of debuff on ORYX if you can. Tractor Cannon might be annoying because it means someone would have to run up to ORYX and boop him, then run back to the Radiant Well for damage, going back and forth, which is a little bit of a trek. A Hunter Tether would be much easier, or a Divinity if you have one. If nothing else, remember to have any Solar Guardians on your team taking advantage of Revitalizing Blast on your artifact. After all, any debuff is better than no debuff. Warlocks, your team will bully you to get onto Radiant Well with Lunafaction boots, and unfortunately, yeah, having one or maybe two just to be safe would be ideal. If you got a whole bunch of Warlocks on the team though, a few going on burst damage supers like Nova Bomb or even Needle Storm would probably be fine. Titans, I would probably recommend you use your super for ad clear instead of damaging ORYX. Unless of course you have no Radiant Warlocks on the team, not recommended by the way. In that very weird scenario, you could bring a bubble for extra weapon damage. Hunters, I would say one tether for the debuff on ORYX, and other than that, Celestial Nighthawk, Golden Gun all day with that Solar Surge modifier. Armor mod wise, remember the golden combo for not throwing during damage phase. Multiple surge modifiers on your leg armor matching the element of your DPS weapon combined with multiple time dilation mods. And of course, high resil so you're not getting your butt kicked during the fight. Any additional updates or tips, I'll go ahead and drop in the pinned comment. Share additional tips down below if you wish. Thanks for watching. Peace.